It's not every day that a simple pocket change coin could be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars, yet tucked quietly into countless collections, forgotten drawers, and maybe even a change jar sitting on the kitchen counter. Some quarters hold secrets that even seasoned collectors are still discovering. Today, we're spotlighting two of the U.S. state quarters that have developed a legendary status, not because of their age, they're relatively modern, but because of specific, rare errors that can transform an ordinary-looking coin into a true prize. First up, the Arizona State Quarter. If you think all Arizona quarters are just more of the same copper-nickel blend, think again. There's a lot more hiding beneath those saguaro cacti than meets the eye. The Arizona State Quarter was released in mid-2008 as part of the final wave of the U.S. Mint's wildly successful 50-state quarters program. This program ran from 1999 through 2008, issuing a unique design for each of the 50 states. By the time Arizona's quarter came out, Americans, young and old, had been hooked on collecting for almost a decade. It's hard to overstate the buzz around each release. Millions were following along, filling their collectors' maps, buying proof sets, and hoping to stumble across flawless examples right in their pocket change. But despite the mass interest, not all quarters were created equal, and hidden among them were gems like the now famous Arizona Extra Cactus Error. Arizona's design is classic and unmistakable. Dominating the foreground is a towering saguaro cactus, the quintessential symbol of the American Southwest, framed by desert flora and backed by a sweeping view of the Grand Canyon. Above it all shines the relentless Arizona sun. Below the design, the motto Grand Canyon State proudly declares the state's nickname. Joseph F. Minna, the coin's engraver, who later rose to become chief engraver of the U.S. Mint, crafted a beautiful tribute to Arizona's rugged and breathtaking scenery. But fate, as it often does in coin collecting, had a little twist in store. The true rarity of the Arizona quarter lies in a specific die break error that collectors call the Extra Cactus Error. It happens when a piece of the die, the metal tool that stamps the coin's design, breaks off during the minting process. As a result, coins struck with the damaged die show a blob of extra metal just left of the main cactus. In the case of the Arizona quarter, the break created what looks like a bizarre, misshapen arm branching off the saguaro. On some coins, this blob of metal nearly or completely covers the initials JF, Minna's initials, making them either partially obscured or totally missing. Now, errors happen all the time during minting, but not all errors are desirable. Minor misalignments or slight die wear are common and typically don't fetch much attention. What makes the Arizona Extra Cactus Error stand out is its clear visibility and dramatic appearance. It's immediately noticeable to the naked eye, no magnification needed, and it's such a strange, unnatural addition to the scene that once you see it, you'll never unsee it. That's a major reason why collectors love it. As for scarcity, official mintage numbers for this error aren't published, since the U.S. Mint doesn't track how many coins are struck with broken dies. Estimates vary widely, but many experts believe only a small fraction of the overall Arizona quarter production, possibly fewer than a few thousand coins, display this dramatic error prominently. Others exist with smaller die breaks, but it's the bold, unmistakable ones that command serious attention in the market. Speaking of the market, the Arizona Extra Cactus Error has performed impressively. Circulated examples, coins that show some signs of wear but are still easily identifiable, typically trade in the $75 to $250 range. Pricing depends heavily on how strong and complete the die break is. Coins where the extra cactus is large and the designer's initials are fully obliterated are considered the most desirable. Meanwhile, if the extra growth is faint or small, the premium is less dramatic, but still significant compared to a regular quarter. For coins in truly pristine condition, uncirculated pieces with full mint luster, no wear, and sharp details, the stakes get higher. Slabbed examples graded MS-65 to MS-67 have sold at auction for $400, $600, even $800 depending on the eye appeal and strength of the error. It's worth noting that MS-67 is an extremely high grade for a circulation coin, meaning the surfaces are almost flawless under 5x magnification. That's part of why top-end Arizona errors are so fiercely sought after. They're not just rare because of the die break. They're rare because surviving examples in high grade are even scarcer. Condition variation plays a massive role in valuation. A circulated extra cactus quarter with a lot of surface nicks and dullness might still pull $75, which is great for a pocket change find. But those saved in original mint sets, or pulled from fresh rolls early on before they ever saw circulation, have the potential to bring in multiple times that amount. Full strike, clean surfaces, no fingerprints. All these factors can add hundreds of dollars to the final price tag. And here's something a lot of people don't realize. There are actually different types or stages of the extra cactus error. Early stage die breaks show smaller blobs or hairline cracks, while later stages show larger, more pronounced growths. Some collectors even try to assemble progressive die break sets, a fascinating side quest where the goal is to collect examples from different points in the die's deterioration life. It's a deeper, more challenging way to appreciate just how dynamic and unpredictable minting errors can be. Adding to the lore, there are even rumors, though unconfirmed, that some mint employees noticed the die break, but allowed it to stay in production longer than usual, either because they figured it wasn't severe enough to justify pulling the dies immediately, or because they simply didn't catch it fast enough. Either way, the result was a gift to the error collecting community, a truly distinctive modern mint mistake that checks all the right boxes: visibility, rarity, story, and market value. It's also interesting that despite being a modern coin, the Arizona extra cactus error has developed a strong following among more traditional numismatists, who often focus on much older coinage. It shows that a truly great error can transcend its age and speak to the universal collector's instinct, the thrill of finding something genuinely unusual, something that slipped through the cracks of the largest minting operation in the world. One last word of advice. If you're searching through Arizona quarters trying to find this error, be patient and train your eye to look carefully at the area around the left side of the cactus base. Once you spot one, it's unmistakable, but it's easy to overlook if you're moving too fast. And remember, not every blob or die chip counts. Only the ones that look like an extra branch or growth and interfere with the initials are considered the classic extra cactus error. Even today, Arizona extra cactus quarters are still being found in circulation, albeit rarely. Checking your change or old rolls from the bank isn't just for fun. It could actually pay off handsomely if you stumble across one of these modern marvels. Whether you're a seasoned collector or someone who just happened to keep an Arizona quarter because it looked weird, it's worth taking a second look. Now, while the Arizona quarter gives us a story of unexpected desert growth, our next coin comes from a landscape rich in history and tradition, North Carolina. From the high peaks of the Blue Ridge Mountains to the crashing waves of the Outer Banks, this state's quarter features one of America's most iconic milestones. But sometimes, a tiny flaw sneaks in, and when it does, it turns this colonial tribute into something far more valuable than its face value would ever suggest. Let's dig into the surprising secrets behind the North Carolina State Quarter. When it comes to U.S. history, few states can boast a moment as significant as North Carolina. It was right there, at Kill Devil Hills near Kitty Hawk, that Orville and Wilbur Wright defied gravity and made the world's first powered, controlled flight in 1903. Naturally, when the U.S. Mint selected a design for North Carolina's state quarter, released way back in 2001, early in the 50 state quarters program, the Wright brothers' incredible achievement took center stage. The coin's image captures that exact historic moment. The Wright Flyer lifting off the sandy dunes, with one brother piloting and the other sprinting alongside. Above the scene, the words "First Flight" are proudly emblazoned. At first glance, most North Carolina quarters look exactly as they should. It's a beautiful design, full of motion and symbolism. But not all of them came out perfectly. Hidden among the millions produced are rare errors that have turned this relatively common coin into a serious collector's prize. And unlike many modern errors that can feel obscure or technical, the ones tied to the North Carolina quarter are both dramatic and extremely collectible, a rare combination. One of the most sought-after versions of the North Carolina quarter involves something called a double die error. Now, in numismatic terms, double die doesn't mean the coin was struck twice. It's much more interesting than that. A double die happens during the actual manufacturing of the die itself, when the design gets impressed twice onto the die at slightly different angles. Then every single coin struck by that faulty die carries a doubled image, like a ghostly echo over the real design. It's not a simple strike error. It's baked into the die from the beginning, making it a true variety and much rarer. In the case of the North Carolina State Quarter, the doubling shows up most noticeably in the text, particularly the words "first flight" and sometimes parts of the right flyer's wings and struts. On strong examples, you can actually see clear, distinct shadows of the lettering and details. It's not always heavy and dramatic. Many are more moderate, but when you find one with bold, eye-popping doubling, you've got something special on your hands. There's even a subtype that advanced collectors call the extra beam error. In some examples, additional doubling makes it appear as if there's an extra support beam running through the body of the right flyer. For aviation fans and numismatists alike, that's an irresistible twist. Suddenly, the Wright brothers' delicate flying machine looks like it was upgraded with a mysterious new strut. Now, how rare are these? Officially, no one knows exactly how many double-die North Carolina quarters were minted. The U.S. Mint doesn't keep those statistics. But based on how infrequently they surface, especially in high grades, it's clear they're not common. Some experts estimate that fewer than a few thousand well-defined examples exist. Plenty of minor double-die varieties exist across all the state quarters, but finding one that's this bold and centered on such a key piece of American history makes it far more desirable. Let's talk market value because that's where things get even more exciting. Typical circulated North Carolina double dies, ones that show some light, wear, but still have visible doubling, can command anywhere from $100 to $250, depending on how strong the doubling is and where it shows up. Light doubling, just visible on the letters, might only fetch closer to $75, but strong doubling affecting multiple parts of the design can climb much higher. If you're lucky enough to have a mint state example, brilliant luster, no wear, sharp details, you're in a completely different ballpark. High-grade examples, certified MS-65 or higher, have fetched $400 to $750 at auction, and a few truly stunning specimens have broken the $1,000 mark, especially if the doubling is heavy and easy to see. One particularly bold piece, graded MS-67 by PCGS, sold for more than $1,200 a few years ago, a huge return on what originally cost someone a quarter. As with any error coin, the clearer and more dramatic the doubling, the better the value. Condition, again, plays an absolutely critical role here. Coins that have been in circulation, jostled around in pockets, rubbing against other coins, lose sharpness and develop scratches that can diminish their desirability. Even if the doubling is strong, heavy wear knocks down the value considerably. On the flip side, coins plucked fresh from uncirculated rolls or mint sets have a much better shot at commanding top dollar. Full, sharp strikes, clean fields, and booming luster make a double die shine, literally and figuratively. Here's an interesting side note. Because the North Carolina State Quarter was one of the earlier releases in the 50-state series, a lot of them were heavily saved by collectors at the time, thinking future demand would spike. Millions were tucked away. However, hardly anyone back in 2001 was actively searching for double dies on these modern coins. It wasn't until years later, when experts and specialists really started combing through saved rolls and sets, that these error varieties came to light. That delay actually helped preserve a handful of high-grade errors that otherwise might have been lost to daily circulation wear and tear. Another fascinating piece of trivia: when the Wright brothers first took flight, they managed to stay airborne for just 12 seconds, covering 120 feet. It's almost poetic that a tiny error in the design celebrating that moment can turn a 25-cent piece into something that soars in value today. And fittingly, some numismatists affectionately nicknamed strong North Carolina double dies flyers in honor of the Wright flyer itself. One other error variety occasionally associated with the North Carolina quarter, though far less common, is the off-center strike. In an off-center strike, the coin blank isn't properly seated in the press, and the design gets struck off to one side. While these aren't unique to North Carolina quarters, off-center errors happen across all coins. When it occurs on something already iconic like the first flight design, collectors sit up and take notice. Values here depend on how far off-center the strike is. 5% to 10% off-center errors might bring $100 or so, but dramatic 50% off-center strikes, especially ones that still show a full date, can go for $400 or more. Now, let's be clear, not every North Carolina quarter with a slight doubling is a jackpot. Minor machine doubling, caused by the coin moving slightly during striking, is very common and usually doesn't add any value. True double die errors show strong, rounded doubling and are part of the die itself, not the result of mechanical movement. That's why getting a professional opinion through grading services like PCGS or NGC is often the best way to authenticate and maximize the value of one of these rare finds. So, what's the takeaway if you're looking to hunt one down? When examining a North Carolina quarter, slow down and look closely at the words first flight, especially the F, I, and R. Check the wings and struts of the flyer too. Strong, doubled lines should jump out under a good magnifying glass. If you see doubling that looks like a shadow, rounded and clearly separated from the original detail, congratulations. You might have stumbled onto something very special. And even though these quarters are getting harder and harder to find in the wild, with nearly 25 years of circulation under their belts, rolls, bags, and older mint sets can still yield treasures. Sharp-eyed collectors who put in the time can still make fantastic discoveries today, proving once again that patience, knowledge, and a little bit of luck are key ingredients in the hobby we all love. From the vast deserts of Arizona to the breezy dunes of North Carolina's coast, these two quarters show just how much hidden value lies in modern coinage. It's a reminder that you don't need to chase ancient gold or rare colonial pieces to experience the thrill of the hunt. Sometimes, all it takes is a careful eye, a little research, and a simple quarter to unlock an incredible story, and maybe even a serious payoff.